Hi everyone, Sid here. I got Vicky here strapped up and ready to go. And before I begin, I want to say, if you haven't seen the famous Glengarry Glen Ross speech given by ALEC BALDWIN, go see it now. It's linked below. If you search for Glengarry Glen Ross, it'll be peppered with just that speech. So go along, come back, and you will get the full value of this video. So the reason I'm talking about this now is because yesterday at my new job, I was talking to a prospect, and after she said that she wanted to get in touch with our sales team, I wrote them an email with her information, and I signed the email with ABC : always be closing. And then I was like, man, I haven't seen that speech in a while, because I make a point of watching that speech regularly, like, I don't know, once every couple months. If you work in sales, I think it's a really powerful speech to watch as often as possible. I know everyone in sales says this. There's a reason for that. And I just wanted to talk about it because, like, when you make abstraction of all the pretty clear dysfunction and verbal abuse in that speech, there's some really powerful gems. And The first one I'll address, since it's on the top of my head right now, is the sales contest. So when I watched that, there's a real big difference between a Cadillac and a set of steak knives. And there's also a huge difference between a set of steak knives and you're fired. So that really, I think that's a metaphor for how a slight change in your strategy or your way of striving for your goals. What's wrong here? Well, I guess that'll wait till next time. So yeah, there's it's a metaphor for how a subtle change in your results, for one, when you're doing an iterative process, a subtle change in the results that you get for one iteration can have a really huge difference at the end. And I think that the way I apply that metaphor is to use it, the sales contest of life. And it's a question that I'm always asking myself, which is, what am I on track for right now? Like, am I on track for the Cadillac or the steak knives, or you're fired? And just to be clear, in the sales contest of life, you're fired doesn't mean like suicide or depression and stuff like that. And that's the beauty of it. Like, you're all, it's up to you to define your terms, like in any life metaphor. But for me, I see the you're fired result as dying alone and miserable, leaving nothing behind you but debt. I think Stefan Molyneux has a great analogy of how there are some people who, when they die, they will have had the same impact as a javelin going into a lake, into a calm lake, and it'll just be a bunch of ripples, and then that's it. And I think that I've been on the path towards you're fired for longer than I'd like to admit. And as much as, you know, you gotta keep your eye on the prize, and as much as if you're going for the Cadillac, as I like to think I am, if you're starting from a position of you're fired, then even if you end up with the steak knives, that's a pretty big improvement. And I think that, and this is probably why this speech is recommended by so many people who work in sales. The main thrust of it is to take charge for your life, to take responsibility for your results. And people sadly don't like taking responsibility, but I think that's mainly due to the fact that they can't realize just how powerful it is to take responsibility. And it reminds me of one of my favorite lines from that speech when when Levine says the leads are weak, and Baldwin's like, the leads are weak? The fucking leads are weak? You're weak. And when you think about it, like, it's not... I was thinking about it before recording this video because I watched it just before coming in here, and I would say that that statement is 90% right, because I was reminded of this saying that's true in a lot of... It's true in a lot of domains of human interactions and getting results and persuasion, like sales, but there are... Let's just stick to sales since that's the domain we're talking about. There are 10% of people that no matter what you do, they will not buy from you today. There's 10% of people that no matter what you say, they won't buy from you today. And the other 80% are up for grabs. So that's really important to keep in mind when you're working in sales, is that yes, you will run into the odd person who, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to buy, no matter how good of an idea it is for this person. And obviously, this won't have that big of an impact because if you're reasonable, you understand how it's not a big deal and that it happens, but just walking ass backwards into a big sale, that's always fun. But it's really about that 80% of prospects where it's up for grabs, where something might have gone right, something might have gone wrong. So I'll do the second pass off camera. I will see you very shortly. So yeah, before I say goodbye, I just want to comment a bit on those acronyms that he talks about in that speech. What I love about ABC, Always Be Closing, is it's a good tool to help keep in mind what your goal is, to get them to sign on the line which is dotted. And it's funny how many opportunities are left on the table by someone who wasn't willing to go for the close, or who didn't manage to overturn the objections and didn't take responsibility, so they won't be working on themselves and equipping themselves to get the close next time. And I think that it's a good verbal tool, and obviously AIDA, I think it's more of a comment on how the persuasion process typically happens. I mean, you can't get someone to make a decision and take action if you don't have their attention and if they're not interested. So I think that those are really interesting mnemonics, but what I love about that speech and why I make a point of watching it every couple months is to really remember to take responsibility, and that the leads might not necessarily be weak. It might be me who's weak. And it's funny how when he says, like, you're not getting these leads because to give them to you would be to just throw them away. I want those Glengarry leads. I want to be the closer who is worthy of getting those premium leads, so that I could work my way towards that Cadillac. So yeah, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, basically, in the sales contest of life, focus on the fundamentals, the ABCs, and as you're working your way towards the Cadillac, even if you end up with the set of steak knives, or even if you end up getting fired, to just master the ABCs no matter where you end up in that final sales contest, you get nice perks along the way, like free coffee. Who doesn't like that? So on that note, thank you very much for watching. Please like and share, leave your comments below, and you'll find links to my Twitter and my Tumblr right there. And subscribe to me on YouTube, please. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all your wonderful feedback, so thank you very much. I will see you soon. You take care. Oh, and remember, coffee's for closers only.